Face front, true believers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to List Mania, the show where we love prolonging to our number one pick. 6 days, Dragon. 6 Infinity Stones, 6 days. Oh, I am hyped. Are you hyped?
I am beyond hyped, Tiki.
So, folks, because Infinity War is just it's like within the time frame of a week. Oh my god. We figured we're going to be doing a series of Marvel related countdowns. This is the one countdown. Then we're going to be doing some commentaries and a debate, a special debate, all in anticipation of Infinity War. Dragon, we're starting things off with the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Stan the Man, Stan Lee, the top 10 Stan Lee cameos. So Dragon, I don't know, like you can kind of get into your criteria for how you rank this. For me, I had 3 specific things in mind. I had entertainment value, I had emotional value, and I had creativity. So basically, entertainment is like how much of a chuckle you get out of it. Emotional value is like kind of the poignancy of it. And then creativity is like, it's not just like, hey, look at Stan Lee. It's like doing something really creative with it, really kind of outside the box of a cameo with it. And I kind of molded those 3 categories kind of together in my head to really get the ingredients to where they are now for it and how I have my list ranked. What about you?
Well, first and foremost, there's something to establish right off the gate in case anyone's wondering. Of course, we're doing like all time. Like we have some kind of some out of left field cameos, but some very again. We're not just doing the MCU, folks. We're doing anything that Stan Lee has cameoed in, and we mean anything,
ever. Anything.
So I mean, it can be not even in a movie per se. It can be in something animated. It could be even in a video game per se. You get Stan Lee.
Park attraction and a video game on my list.
So, folks, just anything Stan, we're definitely gonna give you contextualize. We're gonna give you the whole. We're gonna fill you in like what it's from and such. But believe me, folks, it's coming from all over. So that was first thing to factor in the criteria of like we're going all time. We're going big with this. We're going Stanley. Stanley deserves our finest. So of course we're gonna like rate. So I factored in Stanley's performance, kind of the some symbolism with the kind of the basically symbolic of what it kind of reflects on Stanley and then the creation and such. The heart, kind of the preference. So I mean, I get like a number of things kind of float in my head. I did try to. I think as you get towards the top of my list, you're going to see there is some objective cameos, like which one is the best, which one is kind of a favorite in like a certain line, like by like MCU standards, what could be a favorite all time, what could be a favorite, stuff like. Yeah, as we get to the top, you're going to see like some are like outside of my preference is probably like the best cameo. I think my preference is probably going to win out by the end of the list. So you'll see.
Okay,
you'll see how it goes.
Sounds good. All right, Dragon. Well, I will get things started with my honorable mentions. We're going to have 3 honorable mentions a piece. Going to try and go through these rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, give me 1 sec, Dragon. My window is not on mine. Okay, there we go.
And you know what, folks? I'm just going to say it here. You know why we're doing this? Because Stan Lee has given us not just 10 years of the MCU. He's given us so much more. He's given us these heroes. He's collaborated with some of the greats in the comics industry. Again, very in part, his foray into the comics industry and the creation of Marvel from the '60s onward. Thanks to the wonderful Joan Lee, who was passed away. Who again has always kind of been our thoughts in regards to like the creation of the MCU. So I mean, Stanley, we gotta treat Stan right. I just want that to be kind of the theme of this. We gotta treat Stan right. We gotta show love to the guy who we don't have a Stanley cameo without Stanley in the first place. Kind of creating these Marvels and kind of perpetuating the world of Marvel. He may not have created every single Marvel character you know and love. My God, he created like at least 75%. 50 to 75% of the whole universe, and is well remembered and fondly, a part. He's a coliseum filled of Stanleyisms and Excelsiors and enough said. It builds the firm courthouse that is Marvel. The man is the law of Marvel in the comics industry. The man is, to quote the great Kevin Smith, he is the Mark Twain of comics, and that's very much what we're here to honor. The Generalissimo of comics himself, the great Stanleys. I want positivity and love for Stanley to know that that's of course they're all of our picks and all of our fun. So join us as we fondly reminisce on Stanley. Just one of our greatest pleasures talking about Stan.
So, Dragon, my 3 honorable mentions before I show my first one is they're basically quick cameos that are just really fun and entertaining in their own different things. But they don't last long. They don't really leave that much of an impact, but they're memorable in their own right. So I just kind of want to get that out there for criteria. Okay,
All
so
right.
the first honorable mention is something that I guarantee probably 90% of the audience has never seen or didn't know that Stan Lee was involved in.
Ah,
The Muppet Babies. So, Dragon, you watched this today. What do you think of it?
I just want to say Tiki blew my mind with this because I mean I've never looked into this. That Stanley had a cameo, Muppet Babies, and I was blown away. But I love this cameo so much. I really do. It was great. It's live action. It feels like it's kind of in that. I love kind of the marriage of Stanley and kind of a Jim Henson-y universe where we could have like a fourth wall gag like this. And again, it's so darn charming. And again, it's Stan Lee and kind of that rare kind of like this quite possibly definitely out of our list, but possibly. I mean, it even predates the trial of the Incredible Hulk, where this might be the earliest Stan Lee cameo, at the very least, the earliest live action Stan Lee cameo. And my God, it is. It's again, it's so nice and so charming, and it's Stanley interacting with Muppets off screen again from like the drawing board's perspective, and it's just it's so darling and so sweet.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason I have it is just an honorable mention is that I'm assuming a lot of people don't know it exists, so it hasn't really left much of an impact. And also, it goes by really quick. Again, that was kind of part of my criteria with the honorable mentions. Like, it's a very quick cameo.
I tell you, this is like the perfect introduction to Stanley for kids, though. It's like the perfect, like, who Stanley is.
He's
It's
just
so.
this nice old comic book writer, you know?
And he's like, hey, there's only one spider, there's only one Spider-Man. Last I checked, you stop shooting those webs, you kids.
Yeah. Really nice scene, really nice cameo. And like you said, Dragon, it's a good blending of, Jim Henson and Stan Lee. It's probably the only time we're going to see that blending.
Well, short of an epic rap battle, that was also really nice, by the way, but not an official Stanley cameo. So it's
I wanted to include that as an honorable mention, Dragon. I'm glad you brought that up.
that is my favorite of all those epic. Again, it's like the only one. It's like doesn't it's non-combative in the end, really, but it's it's great.
All right. Next honorable mention, Doctor Strange.
All right.
I mean, not much to say here. It's just like a really quick in the middle of this intense fight. It's like, and there he is. There he is. He's reading a book and he's not paying attention to the fight at all.
He's essentially Stanley's laughing at reality while he's reading this book, like this book on kind of like perceptions, reality of magic and stuff.
So yeah, like I said, it's just a quick little like, oh, there he is, like blink and you miss it. It's like Dragon. That's kind of how I define these sort of quick cameos. There he is cameo. You know what I mean? I think the first 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are there he is cameos.
It's like there he is, Mister. Anyway.
God. God. Oh man.
Okay, fine. It's more of a Mighty Mouse. There he is. Anyway.
Anyways, okay. Third honorable mention: package for Tony Stank.
The only levity in that movie, the only real kind of levity after a lot of dramatic, it's like after the most dramatic part of the movie, which is so funny.
That's what I'm saying. It's perfectly timed. And I love just the image of Stan Lee as a FedEx worker.
Yeah, I wish he was my FedEx guy.
All right, so folks, as you can see, there's with some of these, there's not going to be a ton to talk about because they go by so quick. So this is going to be an interesting kind of experiment in doing a top 10 list. We'll see how it goes. It was kind of a challenging list to put together. Okay, Dragon, I will go ahead and switch to... Oh, spoiler alert. Sorry.
All right, we're getting to my honorable mentions.
Yes, getting to your honorable mentions. hold on one sec.
So I guess the criteria for my honorable mentions were these are also they're kind of short, but each of them are memorable and kind of reflect an aspect of Stanley. I kind of tried to do that with all of mine. They kind of reflect something of Stanley. So my third honorable mention is Agents of Shield. It's from season 1, episode 13. The episode is Tracks. It basically takes place all on the train, hence the Tracks title. So this was a fun one. Now, Tiki, have you ever seen this one?
No, I haven't.
I'm understand they have like this. There's this compilation online, so they kind of have all of them kind of linked. Basically, all the ones we're going to go through here are very much included on the. Well, not all of them, but all the ones that are on film or in live action are on that little compilation. Anyway, so so this reflects Stan as kind of the fun, over the top actor. Basically he Coulson and Simmons. One of the agents from Agents of Shield. They're undercover and like they're playing like a father and daughter, and it's and basically like Simmons has to overact. She has to like kind of like basically the daughter who's mad at her father and being very vocal about like she has like her mother who's been cremated like in a little urn and just saying you were all basically accusing Coulson very publicly of philandering, and Clark Gregg is hysterical, just looking very uncomfortable in the scene, just looking like I didn't expect her to improvise like this, and I'm just just she's being very loud and very vocal about it. It's hilarious. It's like her first undercover gig. She's all she really works in the lab, so it's kind of her first time, one of her first times in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, essentially, while that's going on, so as she's making a scene, basically accusing her father of like all sorts of bad stuff, Stanley, of course, with two beautiful women on his arm, he stops by, ascot and everything, and it's Stan as the over the top actor. He's a socialite with a date on each arm. He's speaking to Coulson, basically he's saying to essentially to the daughter, says, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry for your loss, sweetheart." He's offering his sympathies, and then like very like he's chastising Coulson, saying, "And you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You should do right by your daughter." And again, I love that while he's saying that, he has these two. He's basically speaking. It's kind of implied that he has two women on his arm. He's saying you should be faithful and have your priorities in line, while he's it's kind of an oxymoron of a cameo. Where like, hey, you better be responsible, and you should have been committed in life, while he's has two women on each arm.
God.
So it's funny, and again, it's Stan as the actor. So I love when Stan really gets a chance to act in these, and that's kind of what he's doing here.
Definitely.
All right, honorable mention number 2. These will go by a little faster here. So honorable mention number 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So, of course, my favorite Marvel movie of all time, Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I got to say, I'm surprised this didn't crack your top 10.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is great, and I love this, but let's just say we have some other really, really stunning cameos from the MCU that are definitely towards the main list. And this is great. I've always loved this. I had to include it, obviously. Essentially, Stanley plays a guard at the Smithsonian guarding the Captain America exhibit. And it's a fun cameo that shows, it gives Stan a small role in the story. I love the cameos that give Stan a small role in the story. Like give him like a little, like he has like a little occupation, little job. He's like, it's a little more than just kind of random old man on the street. It's like, hey, Stan's playing a character.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love, and the last thing I really say about this, what I love is how it reflects Stan, who in his earlier Stan got his big break in comics, working under Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, who created Captain America, the one main Marvel character Stan Lee didn't create, the main one, Captain America. He revamped him with the Avengers, but he didn't create him. So by proxy, he was serving Captain America very much. Kind of what he's doing here, kind of in service of the Captain America museum. And he was just like kind of the kid running the coffee and doing the errands. So here is like, it's like he's playing a young security guard who's gotten in trouble, but he's Stan Lee.
God.
So it's like the young intern that he was working on Captain America. He's the young intern, serving the Captain American Museum, and he screwed up on the job. So I always thought it was so charming, and it's kind of one of my favorite. Out of all the Captain America movies, it's probably my favorite of the Stan Lee cameos in the Captain America movies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Honorable mention number one, a prolific but brief one, X-Men Apocalypse. So
Oh man,
he
this is a powerful image in its own right.
it is. And so X-Men Apocalypse, he plays, again, for all intents and purposes, he actually plays himself in this one. He plays himself and Joan playing herself as well.
Mhm.
Basically, you know, man and woman, I believe by Stan Lee's real house. I could be wrong, but I mean, it looks similar to the exterior of the house. And essentially, Apocalypse has launched all the nukes into space, kind of Superman Quest for Peace style. And it's such a prolific, memorable, and haunting image because one, I mean, first and foremost, this is the only cameo to feature Joan Lee. Again, Joan Lee, who started it all, who again really started the Marvel universe by recommending that if you're going to quit anyway, why don't you basically do the Fantastic Four, go out on a high note, do what you're they're going to fire you anyway, so you might as well just do the book you want to do for a change. Of course, thanks to that wonderful suggestion, we have the Marvel Universe. So again, very invaluable. So I mean, I recognize her from some documentaries and stuff I'd seen Joan Lee in. So like when I saw her,
Right.
it's like, oh my god, not only it's such a special Stan Lee camp, we have Joan Lee for a change. That's awesome. And I love how appropriate it is that we're here with the two people who kind of started it all in just the idea phase. And it's so appropriate that she be featured at the end of it all within this moment in the story. And then we have that great kind of close up on Stanley's glasses with the kind of an end of the world image reflected on Stanley's sunglasses. It's probably the best shot cameo out of anything. It's the best shot cameo out of anything we got here. I'll say that much. I gotta get that's why it's got at the top of the honorable mentions. It was really close to being number 10, but I kind of flip flopped it a couple times. So there you go.
Okay, well, folks, my number 10, as you already kind of saw, unfortunately, I'll try not to do that again, is Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Do you guys validate? Okay, Dragon, I have one reason and one reason only that this is in the top 10, and it might be a silly reason, it might not be for you. But to me, speaking of validate, this gag validates the theory that the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, it's not even theory, it's just canon. It's part of the ride. Rocket Raccoon references this fact that the hilarious part of Mission Breakout is the fact that literally the collector landed at Disneyland. Like the rest of the park is Disneyland, but this one building is the thing that's not, is the thing that's actually real. So, Dragon, I just love the idea that Stan Lee is playing this tourist that got, that got into this situation. You know what I mean? Like he's literally a tourist at Disneyland looking for a parking validation. It fits in so well with the meta narrative, and the great thing about it is that like I said, the ride itself references this. Rocket Raccoon has a great line if you get a certain variation where where as the doors open you look out over Disneyland, he literally says, "Disneyland? That's thematically inconsistent." So the Stan Lee cameo just fits within the rest of the world. It fits with the humor. I love him playing a tourist. And it's just one of those great, like when you're in line, it's like, oh, there he is. It is a there he is. It definitely is. But it's so fun. And like I said, the meta quality of it really is what got it onto the top 10.
Well, you know what I really love about it, Tiki? I love that this is actually a deleted cameo from Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. They were gonna have Stan. They had like a double, like they were preparing to shoot it, but what they did is they had like a double dressed exactly like Stan Lee, so they could prepare for the shot. And Stan was inside one of the He was in the collector's place in nowhere in the first Guardians movie, and basically Groot was going to look at him. And I really and the only reason they didn't include it is it kind of took a cynical turn when Stanley flipped Groot off. He gave him the middle finger while he was looking at him while he was in the container. And again, honestly, this is kind of like the better version of that what we got here because again, it's like just Stanley's being Stanley in the container. It's just like Stanley asking about validated parking. Like, oh boy, it's the ultimate collectible, Stanley.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right. So Dragon, your number 10 is.
Dun, 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 dun. One could say it's really cool. Others could say it's fantastic. It's the Fantastic Four cameo from 2005's The Fantastic Four. So here Stan plays Willie Lumpkin, the mailman, who is a character from the Fantastic Four comics. So again, this is where Stan, the first time Stan actually plays, an established character in a Marvel film. And again, it's like, I love it where Stan has a chance to perform here, and he's performing a character. He's making the most out of a brief cameo, and he brings a likability and a theatricality in his cameo. You can tell he plays it like he's a walk-on actor who's trying to get like a line. He's like an extra trying to get a line. It very much reads. I don't know if it's just literally because that's what it is, or if it's just like Stan playing it up. It feels like Stan's smart enough to be playing that up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a nice one where it's like our guys walk in and it's like a classic. It feels like what it was back in the comics, where Stan and Jack Kirby and then the rest of the gang, they would write themselves in like little cameos within the pages of the
Dragon,
comic.
I was almost going to insert those as an honorable mention.
Yeah, like famously, I always loved the Stan as Jack Kirby would draw Stan Lee as Doctor Doom, like underneath the mask at times. I always loved that.
No. What I'm saying is, I was actually going to insert the editor notes, like when Stan himself would like stop the story and be like, "Oh, remember in issue number 28 of the Amazing Spider-Man, True Believers."
Oh yeah. So this feels exactly like one of those times where Stan's just kind of inserting himself into the story, and again, so he has that likability. Just like it's like he provides a warm welcome to our heroes. Like, Dr. Richards, welcome to the Baxter. I got the usual for you. And of course, Mr. Fantastic saying, "Oh, thanks, Willie." Just it's nice. It's nice and simple. And like, hey, Stan Lee's played an established character. And from that point forward, they drew Willie the Mailman like Stan Lee in a few things.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool.
All right, that's about it. Like we said, folks, not a ton to talk about with some of these. Okay, my number 9. My number 9 is. Did it work? Thor. Okay, Dragon. This is kind of like along the same veins as yours, where he's not necessarily playing an active character, but he does have an active role in the story to a certain extent, where it's one of the more elaborate ways that because throughout the whole Thor movie, we're seeing different ways that people are trying to get Thor's hammer out. You know what I mean? That's kind of like a running gag in the movie. And the Stan Lee cameo is kind of like it's the escalation point. It's like the most that we can do with that gag. You know what I mean? It's like it's the furthest we go with it, where it's like, okay, we're literally rigging this hammer up with chains to a big rig truck driven by Stan Lee. If this doesn't work, nothing will, darn it. This was a late pick because I just don't really think it doesn't really there's nothing too memorable about it, but I don't know. To me, I like the delivery, and I like the way it fits into the story. I like that it's kind of the climax of a big running joke throughout the movie. So there's a lot of things to like about this.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 9.
Dragon, you're number 9. Number 9
would be Daredevil from 2003.
Dragon, I would have had this in my top 5.
Here's the thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I really this actually for a time. You got to remember this is early in kind of the creation of all the Marvel movies. When we were starting to get them. For the longest time, this was my favorite. It was for many years. This was my favorite until other things kind of came by. And I love this because it's me. I'm easy to please. I love it when superheroes save people. I always love that. It's my kind of it's the addictive thing for superheroes with me. Seeing a hero save somebody, it's always cool. And so Stanley plays not just an old man here. He plays not just an old man that Matt Murdock saves, but what this is inspired by, Tegan. This is why I really love this. So Stan isn't. This is a nod to the fact that in the comics, and we see this in the Netflix show too. They pulled this from the comics, and this is what this is in reference to. Matt Murdock, he saved an old man from getting from getting hit by a car, and basically the accident caused chemicals to spill on Matt Murdock's face, blinding him.
Sure, sure.
So this is a reference to, again, we had the they changed up the circumstances a little, so they still kind of threw Matt Murdock in with kind of an old man. He did save him from something, so it was like a little nod at that. Which years later, again, it's like the old man. Years later, so I just love that we're taking that little nod to like the huge origin for the iconic origin of Daredevil, and here it's just simply it's Matt Murdock saving his creator in a way. And I love that his first act of heroism is not as a vigilante, not as a guy putting on a mask, beating people up, but it's just as a blind kid. It's kind of as that anyone could be a hero mentality about this cameo.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the legacy. It's kind of the legacy and the simplicity of this one. And I mean, believe me, for years I really did like this more than like kind of the there he is cameos. Like this is kind of I'd say of the there he is cameos, this is probably the best of the there he is cameo.
I would agree with you on that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, again, at least for years, I was absolutely of that mindset. And I would still say, looking at my list here, like it's just that you recognize that guy. It's I think it's better than like falling debris type stuff. Like, oh my god, we actually gave him like a role that kind of speaks to something about the character that that he created. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, here's the thing, Dragon. I would have had it in my top 5 just based on nostalgia alone. Like, this is like a legacy pick for me.
And you're right. I mean, I might have done that too, but the thing is, I have more of a I kind of went some objective stuff when we get closer to the list. Like again, it's very fondly remembered. That's why it's on the list. But
No, fair enough. But this is the first time that I remember actively, recognizing Stan Lee on the big screen, because X-Men, he has such a quick cameo, and then Spider-Man is just like the falling debris thing. It's like it's a blink and you miss it. This is it's very prominent. He's right in the center of the shot. It's very much you really get who he is. You get that like you said, it speaks to the Daredevil character. This is really what I feel like kicked off the modern day what a Stan Lee cameo is. Like, I feel like X-Men and Spider-Man 1 were kind of both, they were kind of like playing around with the kind of the Hitchcock idea of putting him in the background. This is where the Stan Lee flavor of a cameo kind of came into the picture.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Dragon, my number 8 is... Sorry, folks, we have to kind of switch around these screen shares. The Amazing Spider-Man!
Yeah!
All right, not the best movie, but this is a really fun cameo. And it's memorable, Dragon. This cameo definitely has the memorability going for it. I actually think this is probably one of the most memorable sequences in the whole film, to tell you the truth. I definitely think the fight scene in general is the most exciting fight scene in The Amazing Spider-Man by a pretty considerable margin. I like the idea of doing an action scene set in the school. And this is really just the point in that fight scene. Like, much like Thor was the escalation of the running joke, this is the escalation of the fight scene. This is the point where it just goes from fun to like, oh my god, and there's Stan Lee, and oh my god, he can't. Like, I love how the music gets blocked out. He's just so blissfully unaware. Like, we don't hear any of the epic music or the or the sounds of the fight. We're just really in Stan's world as he's just like, la da 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 da, I'm putting these books on the shelf. I'm organizing books.
Yeah, it's a great silent movie gag for Stan Lee.
And I also love the part, speaking of Spider-Man, speaking of heroes saving people, I love when the lizard throws the bookshelf at Stan Lee and Spider-Man like swings it away from him.
Yeah, the table. Yeah, he like flings the table.
Oh yeah, the table. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Like I said, it's a quick bit, but I do think it's really memorable. It's like, I think it's the most memorable part of the most memorable fight scene in the movie. So for that reason, just given the placement of it, and it does go on for quite a bit. It's not just a there he is cameo. It's more of a okay, here's Stan Lee, and he's involved in a funny comedy bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Dragon. So, anything you want to say about this, Dragon?
Yeah, so I mean, amazing Spider-Man. You know, it's funny that the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Well, again, I'm by no means a fan of that iteration of Spider-Man, the Ultimate animated show. Yeah, I hear the comics I still have not. Yeah, I can never get into the comic. I really got to give it a shot one of these days. But the animated series, they actually had Stan as a janitor on that show, and it feels very much. And this is around the same time as this, so it was kind of like, hey, we like having Stan Lee at the school, so I felt like that was kind of a carryover from this to an extent. Just like, hey, let's have Stan Lee as a staff member of the high school. So he was like Stan the janitor. He actually got his own episode of that. So it didn't make any of my list. Just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to mention that. And again, it's nothing beats the thrill of Spider-Man, saving someone with his web slinging. Like, I mean, look at the Spider-Man ride, for example. I mean, nothing thrills you more than just like you're free falling from that building and Spider-Man saving you. And we get to do that with Stan Lee here. It's kind of a classic. Spider-Man saving someone at the last second with the web sling, like a great fake out moment. Oh boy, it's delightful.
Yeah. Okay, Dragon. Your number 8 is.
Deadpool. But boy, oh boy, folks. Of course, I can't. I'd be here all the live long day if I told you, why. I love the movie Deadpool. But one of those reasons, one of those various reasons, is Stan Lee in this movie. I mean, I adore. I adore how he worked in Stanley. Not now, Stan Lee's cameo here is kind of, it's not just the fact that he played an MC at a Canadian strip club, which is much better than American strip club, by the way. Just for the record. But yeah, I love in the marketing. I love everything we do at Stanley in relation to the Deadpool movie because we marketed it. We marketed the movie around. We included Stanley in the marketing because there's this amazing poster. It was this wonderfully kind of constructed poster. It had like all the heads of like people who were in the movie, and Stanley was one of them. Just like he was in the marketing campaign. So again, I have
remember
that.
that. Yeah.
It was because it was a free IMAX poster I got when I
Oh.
saw Deadpool in IMAX. And when it came out, my God, it was like the perfect kind of everything went right with seeing Deadpool in the movies. Just everything was flawless and wonderful. It's like it was like the perfect. Oh my God, I got the beautiful looking poster. Oh my God, Stanley's on it too. It was just this wonderful. And along with that, he's in the marketing, and of course, he's included in the opening credit gag, like a Stan Lee gratuitous cameo.
Uh-huh.
It's like you knew Stan Lee was coming, and and here he's having fun, and this exemplifies kind of it's the mix of what Deadpool is. It exemplifies kind of a classic comic, like an icon of classic comics, where you'd include Stan Lee in your Marvel film, your Marvel comic. Yet it still has like the R-rated adult setting. So we have kind of that. It's like the perfect mixture. We take our emissary, our generalissimo of comics, and we put him in a strip club as an MC. So it's like the perfect mix of what Deadpool's going for. And so symbolically, Stan Lee is a very befitting candidate. But here's the reason. I believe part of me wanted to rank this higher. Really did. I could have ranked this maybe a spot or two higher. But my thing is, as much as I love the movie Deadpool, I think a lot of them they kind of do other things. Again, kind of I think objectively they're a little better than this. It's just purely here for my love of this. But here's the reason I really had to include this on this list, without a doubt, because this follows my favorite moment of acting in the entire Deadpool movie. So my favorite bit of Ryan Reynolds acting in Deadpool, my favorite moment of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I've spoken to this in like a Deadpool video I did way back when, but it's this moment where it's the moment where Wade Wilson, again, not wearing the Deadpool mask, where Deadpool, he walks in there and he's looking for Vanessa because he has to warn her about Ajax, and it is a big thing for him. He doesn't want to confront her, but he does. He has to, and things go slow mo. The music, the Junkie XL music just hits a really wonderful, emotional note. And as this happens, he looks upon her lovingly. Just seeing the pity and the love sickness in Ryan Reynolds' eyes in that moment. Just seeing that every time I see her, it's like the first time, and just it's him looking at her. But the moment that sells it for me is just like that moment where he sees her and he wants to say something to her, but he just can't, and like he turns away and he walks away. That's Deadpool. That's all the that's That's Deadpool beyond the comedy. That's the kind of stuff I really like with Deadpool. I mean, I love the comedy with Deadpool. That's just it's like, yeah, it's showing that Ryan Reynolds, he got the character. He didn't just play the wisecracker. He got who that character is at his core. And the moment that happens, one of my favorite moments of the entire film happens, that in the montage, Stan Lee comes on off screen with an MC line where he says, "You can't buy love, but you can rent it for 3 minutes." So I love that we have this beautiful moment of acting, and yet at the same time, and again, it kind of accentuates that moment of acting where we have a line that does kind of exemplify Deadpool like philosophy of, you can't, like, Deadpool's like cynical look on love, like making light of kind of being so hopelessly in love with somebody would be something like that. Like, you can't buy love, you can't have love, but you can rent it for 3 minutes just to know what it's like. So I mean, my God, it's a cameo that does kind of plus one of my single favorite moments in that movie. So it's, my God, it's an excellent cameo. I love it.
All right. So getting into my number 7, let me just switch around the screen shares. My number 7 is Hulk 2003. Now, my God, Dragon, what a mess. What a mess of a movie this is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful train wreck is what it is. Like, I feel like Hulk 2003 is like, it was ahead of its time in a really unfortunate way, because it was just like, it was way too ambitious for its own good in terms of telling like a cerebral comic book story. I feel like if the movie would have come out post Dark Knight, it would have done really well.
Kind of feels like Christopher Nolan threw up on this movie. You know, just kind of like, well, there's like a canvas. If it's a beautiful, like, let's say it's a kind of a disastrous art piece, you know, where you just like, Christopher Nolan, I'm going to make a movie at the Incredible. Oh man, I shouldn't have had those tacos for lunch, and blah. And of course, what you have on the screen is like, this is art. It came from someone artistic, right? I mean, I kind of see it's people interpreting the art when it's just really like, it's a mess. It's like, oh God, look at this. And of course, in the mess, you have two moments, Tiki.
Yes.
Which you have that the mirror moment. You have like the whole puny human, and you have the moment we're all here to talk about.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The mirror moment is probably the best moment in the movie. And then this is just the moment for the Marvel fans where it's like, hey, it's Stan and it's Ferrigno.
Yeah.
So Dragon, really, I don't have a ton to say about this. It's just like, it's a 2 for the price of 1. And I just remember being so jazzed when I saw this in the theater, because I had been doing my homework. Like, I hadn't watched the main series, but I had seen the Incredible Hulk movie, the trial of the Incredible Hulk. So ironically enough,
just so you know, I highly recommend the Incredible Hulk series. It's great.
I'll get around to it. But my point being, I was definitely familiar enough with Ferrigno to recognize him. And of course, the trial of the Incredible Hulk is also where Stan Lee's first cameo came from, his first big screen cameo. And so, so seeing these two together is, it was great. It was great. And it was just a nice little pop in an otherwise just completely baffling movie. But what I love most about it, Dragon, is just how mundane it is.
It is, yeah. It's just
like, this is literally the most mundane Stan Lee cameo you're ever going to see, in spite of the fact that it's a 2 for 1 with him and Lou Ferrigno.
You kind of just want to...
Go ahead.
You kind of just want to see a buddy movie with these two guys. Like, this is the movie I want to see more than the Ang Lee Hulk. I just want to see these two security guards. Just kind of one's an old man who says, this building needs more security. The other guy says, yeah, you're right, it does need more security. It's kind of like twins. It's like twins, the wiser generation. It's kind of like.
But that's what I love about the interaction, is that it's just like, it's so mundane. It's literally just talking about day-to-day, like, office, like, security business at this, at this lab. I don't know.
Kevin Smith should have directed this as a spinoff. He really should.
Oh God.
Think about it, like kind of a clerk's conversational piece between two security guards, just kind of talking about it. And what he could do would make it even better. He could take, using these two same actors, because he's had dealings with Lou Ferrigno. He's got a lot of love for Lou Ferrigno. He's been on Comic Book Men. Both of them have been on Comic Book Men, funny enough. It would be. Imagine how great it'd be if those two guys were they played security guards, but in the MCU. Like guards from the MCU were just going to come and think, "Oh my god, like I worked security, like at PIM Technologies, that was a disaster." I've worked all over the place. That's all I got. It's anyway, funny.
All right, Dragon, and you're number 7.
Would be another Thor cameo.
Yes.
Not just any Thor cameo. And no, it's not the Dark World. That Thor cameo would have to be Thor.
The Dark World. No, I'm just kidding.
Something that sounds like end of the world. Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok, folks. That's right. You got it right on the nose. Okay, yes. Stan Lee plays a barber on Sakaar. A battle barber, if you will. And my God, what's so cool about this, and again, it's really a toss-up between this and Deadpool, but what it came down to is we have another kind of, we have like a cool factor with this, is that one, Stan Lee, he's dressed like, it's like the most it's the most bizarre yet cool version of Stan Lee we've had in any of the cameos. This is like the coolest.
On him.
So here's the thing. So far, let's see what we've got so far. So I guess, Daredevil is probably like the best kind of, oh, look, there he is cameo.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I'm trying to think of Apocalypse is probably the best shot cameo. Like the best, like looking, just like, just take a still of it. It looks kind of beautiful and kind of interesting. And Thor Ragnarok is quite possibly the coolest design of Stan in any of the Marvel cameos.
Oh, yeah.
At the very least in the MCU, and Stan has had some cool designs. We'll get to a few of them. This is the coolest one by far because what's cool is he's dressed like a Jack Kirby design, which is also a great tribute to his friend Jack Kirby. That he's dressed like because that whole movie is the really cool thing, especially if you rewatch it, folks. I highly encourage each of you to rewatch Thor Ragnarok because it's a love letter to Jack Kirby and the visuals on Sakaar. Sakaar is Jack Kirby's planet, and I mean, again, I don't think he created it, but I'm saying they made Sakaar look like Jack Kirby. That's so cool. And I love that Stan, he serves a practical purpose within this movie, where he is, he gives Thor his new look. And one, I love that he scares Thor enough to leave an impact. Where Thor later on is remarking to Banner that, "Oh yeah, I got my haircut by this creepy old man." And he generally scare him because Thor's just putting on a tough guy act, saying, "You will not cut by Odin's beard. You will not cut my hair." And he's begging him, like, please don't cut my hair. After he has like the giant, like, horrifying barber contraption, like I had Stan Lee playing a one-armed barber who has like a cybernetic enhancement with these big glasses and this Jack Kirby look. Like, oh my God, it's such an insane portrayal. It's the most insane, awesome portrayal of Stan Lee, and I love this. And this is the thing, this pushed it over Deadpool. This quality right here is that I love that he scares Thor, and by proxy, he got us the helmet. He gave us, he got Thor his helmet back because of that haircut. So I love that by proxy. Not only is it's memorable because of it's a memorably funny scene, memorable looking scene, but also it's memorable because again, it finally, after all these freaking Marvel movies, it gave Thor his helmet back. I haven't seen since the first 2 minutes of him, the first minute of him in the first Thor movie. So it's an awesome cameo for various reasons. So my Thor Ragnarok, Stan Lee, it's awesome.
All right, my number 6. Hold on.
6, like the number of days we have to wait till Infinity War. Oh, I hear wedding bells. What do you got, Tiki?
Name, Stan Lee. Sir, you're not on guest list. No, but you don't understand. It's me, Stan Lee. So, Dragon, once again, not a fantastic movie, although it is technically a fantastic movie.
Yeah, of course, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. For those who just might be really in the dark, or just like, Fantastic who?
Yes. So I guess he does not play Willie Lumpkins in the sequel. Instead, he's playing himself in perhaps one of the most meta cameos that we have of Stan Lee. And that's exactly why this is so high. It didn't quite crack the top 5, but I had to put it pretty high up. Because, I don't know, I just love the idea of Stan Lee trying to crash his own party, trying to crash the wedding of characters that he wrote.
You know, it's funny, Tiki. This is probably the best adapted. Again, like we're giving all these Oscar categories with the cameos, by the way, so all the cameo Oscars. But this is like the best adapted. This is the best adapted cameo because in the wedding of the Fantastic Four, in the wedding of Sue and Reed, they had Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in tuxedos and top hats trying to crash the wedding, saying who they are, and they were ejected from the
Oh,
place.
that's great. That's great. That makes it all the better.
So that's the thing. It is an adapted verbatim, again, minus, of course, unfortunately, minus Jack Kirby because he passed away. I believe in the late '90s, so it
Uh-huh.
wasn't around. But my God, it was I guess early mid '90s because Superman did a loving tribute to Jack Kirby. So I think it was like '95 or '96 anyway. Point is, again, so it's a superbly adapted cameo, and that's why again they probably were, I imagine they were considering bringing back his Willie Lumpkin, but then they just figured, you know what, we gotta. It's such an like of the Fantastic Four, your main issues, the main standout issues, of course, it's the Galactus Silver Surfer story, which of course is the movie. But the other thing is the wedding of Sue and Rita. Those are the two big stories of the Fantastic Four. So you got to adapt it right. You got to take those moments. You got to run with them. That's what they did here.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. All right, yeah, like I said, Dragon, I love the meta quality to this. I love the how off the page it is, and you just kind of, like I said, if what revealing what you just revealed, it makes my choice all the better. I feel.
It's a very solid
Unfortunately,
choice.
not the best movie overall. That's kind of a running theme here, but it's still a really, really good off the page cameo.
It had the potential to be one of the great movies, though. Because again, that movie, I mean, oh boy, it could have been so good, but fingers crossed. There's some interesting stuff. There's always, I don't want to say there is because you can't say there is something in the works with the Fantastic Four these days. Unfortunately, let's just say there's always been talk of interesting things with the Fantastic Four. Hopefully, people come to their senses and we'll get verbatim Fantastic Four stuff where you can just instead of saying ifs and whens, like if we're getting a Silver Surfer movie or if we're getting a Doctor Doom movie, if we can just say we're doing Fantastic Four related stuff under the Marvel banner, under the MCU banner, perhaps. Hard to say.
All right, so getting into your number 6.
It's my number 6. Dun, 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 dun. No, it's not just more Infinity War hype, folks. It does tie into it with the thing it gives us. We don't have an Infinity War without an Avengers film. The first Avengers film. No, not the Captain America first Avenger film. The first Avengers film from 2012. So this is a fun moment. This is towards the after the action, after the Battle of New York, after the famed Battle of New York, the incident, as the Netflix universe likes to refer to it as. Stan Lee is seen playing chess with somebody as he's being interviewed on the news. So he's got a man playing chess. And this is cool for a few reasons. One, what kind of accentuates this cameo is there's an A113 attached to this cameo in the screen right above Stan's head. It's kind of hard. It's not here, folks. Just take my word for it. If you go and watch this cameo, the panel that opened up to reveal this footage being played says A113.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a twofer. It's a nexus of, hey, here's a reference to Pixar as well as Marvel. Like they both have they both never fail.
Kind of like my Stanley Lou Ferrigno twofer.
Yeah. So this is great. It's I love that essentially it's Stanley playing cranky New Yorker Stanley, and there's also a deleted scene where he's still a cranky New Yorker. By the way, there's another deleted cameo from the Avengers where. Again, it's Stanley. He's done so many cameos. There are even some cameos you haven't seen, folks, because they're on the DVD. There are a lot of cameos that reach the cutting room floor. The Spider-Man movies with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the first two at least, they've had alternate versions. They've had various ones they tried to do either failed in the shooting or they just they couldn't get the rights to it. Like there was an X-Men reference in the first Spider-Man movie. They had the excise because they didn't want to suggest they were in the same universe.
Ah.
And there are other cameos where he was saving a little girl, but Stanley couldn't lift the girl up.
Oh God!
And you got Spider-Man stole that kid's sneakers. They couldn't, couldn't get away with them. Yeah, they kind of shows again, like we already have the stole that guy's pizza gag. We can't do it again.
Uh-huh.
So in the lead scene for Avengers, it was Captain America was waiting outside. He met the waitress, who later on says, "Captain America saved my life." That waitress, he was actually that waitress was kind of flirting with him, and Stan Lee from behind after she leaves, she says, well, Stan Lee says, "Ask her out, you moron." Basically giving Captain America dating, but he calls Captain America a moron. So ask her out. She likes you. Moron, ask her out. Which is adorable. And here again, he's just still playing kind of a cranky yet helpful New Yorker here, where he is. It's filled with great skepticism. It's Stan Lee playing New Yorker, who's filled with kind of that great classic, skepticism of a new age of at the new age of the MCU. Like, hey, they've all united. We're in the age of the Avengers. All is possible. Or superheroes in New York. Give me a break. So again, it feels like a personal cameo reflecting on where Stan Lee comes from in being a New Yorker. It feels like a good reflection on what gets us heroes in New York. And New York was always a personal setting for all the Marvel characters. They're all based in the real world, not a Metropolis, not a Gotham. They're always based in a recognizable world, which is why, as much as I would always argue, the DC heroes might be more iconic, but the Marvel heroes feel more real to us. I think that's where it boils down to, Tiki. The Marvel characters always feel closer to real life than the DC heroes. And the DC heroes are like they're the Greek mythology of superheroes,
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, this just reflects kind of what gets us that in the first place. So again, it's a reflection on the history of Stan Lee and finally getting kind of a big Marvel movie set in New York, within the MCU, I should say.
All right. So my getting into top five, Dragon. Top five, baby.
Oh yeah, that's my home turf. Top five.
Okay. Number 5, The Incredible Hulk. Once again, one of the most memorable things to come out of a Hulk movie, ironically.
Oh, come on. The Incredible Hulk is a fine movie.
My problem with The Incredible Hulk, it's definitely better than Ang Lee's Hulk. It's way more watchable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it boils down to one long chase scene.
Well, again, that's the point. It's what the show does sometimes. Again, it's
and that's why we don't have Hulk movies. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for a full feature film.
Well, I'm saying now where we're at with them, we're doing things more than just. Again, they got the one chase movie homaging like the years and years, and what made the Hulk's career. It was the Fugitive with the green guy. That's what sold the Hulk for so many years. So God help them if they do if they do an homage to that, right, which they did there with the Incredible Hulk.
All right. Well, point being, this cameo had balls because of all the Stan Lee cameos, Trigon, none of them have we seen Stan Lee die on camera before than this one.
Does he die, or does he become a gamma-radiated super creature we never check back in with again?
Oh my god, I'd love that.
Remember, we still never paid off the leader, okay? The leader is...
You don't think I remember the leader? Come on, of course I remember the leader.
What I'm saying, if we all know, Stan Lee could have... You never know.
Oh god, that'd be ridiculous.
I don't want to get into fan theories right now, but of course, I think because of certain fan theories that have somewhat been confirmed, we can assume he does not turn into a gamma-radiated thing for a specific reason, but let's just say he doesn't die.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just saying, well, we'll get to it later. Let's just say, I think it's good saying that he does not die from drinking this, but that's assuming people subscribe to that theory. So.
Okay, point being, when we saw it in the theater, we pretty much thought he was dead, right?
You're right, though. It's not, you don't know what it is when you're watching. It's like, yeah, you assume, again, it's like, it is kind of startling, though. Oh my god, poor Stan Lee. And they're like, we never checked
That's what I'm saying. It's like we see Stan Lee, we're like, oh, there he is, and it's like, nope, dead. It's like a Stan Lee cameo cut off at the knees.
At the very least, Stan's not doing good because he drops the soda. Again, it's a great line though. It's like, honestly, I mean, it's gonna be grim. I mean, that's the way you go out with Stan Lee though. Just him, not like an element of fear or great sadness, but just like a bemusement at the situation of, wow, just like that's Stan Lee and Marvel right there. It's like nothing but positivity. Like, wow, that's amazing.
But importantly, and the reason it cracked into the top 5 is that out of the Stan Lee cameos, this might be one of the ones that features the most heavily into the actual plot.
Because of this, Bruce Banner is found.
Exactly, and I love that. I love that.
You really got to give Incredible Hulk another watch, Tiki. One of these, one of
Look,
these days.
I've seen it like 4 or 5 times. All right, it's not a movie that I've only seen once. All right, give me some credit.
I'll give you some credit.
It's a good movie. It feels very disconnected from what the MCU has become. It's an odd outlier.
To be fair, that's mostly on Edward Norton.
Yes, it is, but it's still it's very much noticeable.
All right.
Okay. Oh shoot, Dragon. Hold on. Yeah.
All right, so we get into
Okay.
my number 5.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. Sorry. Okay, and without further ado, getting into Dragon's top 5, baby.
Quite simply, folks, my number 5 is another homage to the Merc with a Mouth. From Deadpool, No Good Deed. So, folks, some would write this off as a short film. I mean, here's the thing: it's not just a teaser trailer, but it's definitely, it feels like a short film. It really does. It feels like a very it feels like a short film. I can't describe the enjoyment and surprise I feel like. I had the best Dolby experience ever in my life when I saw Logan in 2017. I didn't know what I was. Again, I never didn't know what the heck Dolby was, but I mean Dolby Atmos, the
Uh-huh.
theater experience. And so Logan in that, and I was expecting good things from Logan, and I was wondering, part of me was wondering, is Deadpool going to be in this movie? Of course, to my surprise, we had No Good Deed playing in the theater. And again, as like we start, the Logan movie with a surprise Deadpool short, essentially a Deadpool short film, little coda at the top of the movie, which is fun, and just it's Deadpool, kind of a Christopher Reeve situation. So everything was just, I honestly, the extra money I paid for Dolby was well worth just that first couple minutes of it. I could have walked out of that movie happy just seeing that. If like they said, sorry folks, the projector's jammed. I mean, I would have been a little disappointed, like, my God, I got my money's worth if I got that Deadpool short there. But here's the thing. So that happened, and then like a day or so later, I guess they at some point they released Ryan Reynolds released it on his YouTube channel, and in its completion, we had the Stan Lee cameo put in there. So Deadpool, again, they saved some surprises there. So again, it's like an unofficial teaser for Deadpool 2, but specifically, kind of showing you what Deadpool under the new director looks like. That's kind of what this was, kind of a test for that. But it was it's Deadpool doing the kind of classic Christopher Reeve phone booth, kind of Superman phone booth gag, where he's taking a long time to get changed. And I've worn that Deadpool costume. It does take that long to put that thing on. Not again. I've worn like good replicas of the Deadpool suit. It takes you a while. And what's so great is punctuating, him like kind of exiting the phone within a dramatic style after the gunshot has gone off after he's far too late. We have like this great cameo where Stanley and Tegan is what wins it over here, and this is why it's so high here. Again, I love that we had the John Williams Superman theme playing in that short and in that teaser. And I was so swept up in it, and you have that again. And what's so great is Stan Lee then appears in an obligatory cameo, even in this short film, just saying. Essentially, it's homaging from the original Superman film, one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, Superman 78, where he comes out of not the phone booth, but he comes out. They have a gag about the phone booth. He comes out of the revolving door in the costume. And a guy on the street says, "Say, Jim, that's one bad outfit." And that's what we're doing with Stan Lee here. He's saying, "Hey, nice suit." And then, of course, is wonderfully again. That's great as is, but then just in reference to that. But then Deadpool addressing this, having the fourth wall addressment of the Stan Lee cameo. Like, this is great. We never have had Stan Lee's cameo addressed in a way such as this, where Deadpool of all characters would absolutely do this, addressed like, "Zip it, Stan Lee." Just like, "I know you're in all these movies, Stan. This is my scene." Essentially, that's what it is. So it's a clever, fun little scene to have Deadpool like kind of point out. "I know you're there, Stan. We put you in the marketing for the first movie. Zip it." It's and then of course going mid stride to like the next bit of ridiculousness and No Good Deed. So it's wonderful. It caught me by surprise. It's a very pleasant experience. It gets that look. It's so happy. Just look how happy Stan is in this thing. It's great.
Okay, my number 4. This is a little bit of a cheat. But I'm going to go with a compilation of Stan Lee cameos from the Lego Avengers video game.
Peter.
Now, Dragon, I sent you the 2-minute link that was a compilation. What do you think?
I liked it. I really my two favorites of it were the image I had before you. The hammer gag is funny. I love the hammer gag, and I also the hammer gag and trying to. I know I like the ticket gag. The ticket gag is also funny with him being on the train during the Ultron fight. Tickets again because it's a reference to Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. You know, no ticket. Trying to think what the other one was. The Oh yeah! Oh my god! I love this. I love that we made the old man from Avengers, the old man that's about to get taken out by Loki. It says, "Look to your elders, folks." Basically, the old man
Yes,
who
yes,
refuses to
yeah.
kneel. I love making that old man Stanley. That's an inspire. That's probably my favorite out of all. It's like, oh my god, it's so brilliant having Captain America save Stanley like that. That's yeah, that's great.
The
It's such a
Avengers
charm.
one is probably my personal favorite.
There he goes. I
Um,
mean, yeah,
Thor's hammer one was probably like the funnest like fan service thing. The
you know what?
Ultron one was fun, but Dragon, I gotta say the biggest laugh that I got was the Natasha and Hulk scene.
The other guy.
Oh boy, that was my chance. Like Stan Lee just waiting in the wings, and then of course Hulk comes up.
All right,
Let's go
two.
get him.
All right,
Oh, I never catch a break.
two things really quick we should address. One, the Lego games, folks, for those who may not be aware, what they do is, at least with the Avengers Lego games, they take the audio from the movie, so it's 100% what you remember from the movie being said, laid over Lego cutscenes, I guess, and you have extra gags, like basically there are a lot of non-violent alternatives, by the way. You don't really have, you might have death, but you never have gruesome death or anything. It's like people eating ice cream to death, essentially,
Mhm.
and. Let's see. So it's and basically you insert like some fun Stanley non sequiturs within these scenes. So it's like he's randomly there during the big Bruce Banner sacrifice scene. So it's funny. I tell you one thing though, out of all these scenes though, I would love to see the Hammer one in live action. I gotta be frank. I would love to
That
see
would
it.
be cool. That would be cool.
I'd
Yeah.
love to see Stan just like as that character, just like going to basically getting his keys or something that he forgot at the party, and just like lifting the hammer up like nonchalant. Just seriously, because it would just say, "Hey, here's a guy who's worthy. We never have to address it again." It's like, "Hey, just he lifted up, lifted up the hammer
uh,
like it was nothing. Put it back." Like in the bloopers of it or something would have been great.
so I know it's a bit of a cheat, folks, but I love all the variety that this video game puts into the different Stan Lee cameos, and you got to admit they're some of the most quirky and cheeky out of all of them. It's just like so tongue in cheek, so on the nose with the with the wacky humor and the satire, and I feel like this is almost kind of like the little kid version of the Deadpool cameos where it's where it's like, okay, like we're putting Stan Lee into this into this situation where it's like we know it's a Stan Lee cameo. You know what I mean? Like we're directly calling to the fact that Stan Lee is there playing Stan Lee and everyone knows it's Stan Lee.
Yeah,
But the situation is just so ridiculous that it just works so well into the video game. All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
The video
Really
game,
fun.
yeah, the
What?
video game can't. Sorry, I was just gonna vamp while we're getting to the next one.
No, no, no. Yeah, go ahead.
The video game kind of brings to mind this was one I saw recently. I had no idea existed for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. It was really sweet that the idea that Stanley he runs a comic shop, and that Peter Parker and Uncle Ben took Peter to this comic shop, and Stanley he basically offers his condolences about Uncle Ben to Peter Parker. It was
Oh,
so
that's
wonderful.
nice.
And again, Stanley it's a model to look as kind of in a CG kind of video game style, look a lot like Stan.
Uh-huh.
And it was so sweet. I mean, I almost put it on my list, but then I realized, again, basically had all I needed. It would have been an honorable mention, but it was really sweet. Just like I'm awfully sorry about what happened to your Uncle Peter. If
Yeah.
I can do anything to help, let me know. It was all so sweet.
All right. So speaking of Stan Lee interacting with Spider-Man, Draken, you're number
Yes.
four.
Number four
Good
is,
segue
this is a
there.
big.
Did you do that intentionally?
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
This is a biggie, folks. This is from Spider-Man the animated series. Now, this is a huge moment in a huge episode. This is from season 5, episode 13, Farewell Spider-Man. This is the finale of the whole series. So let me tell you this. This might have been, to my recollection, it's been a long while. This might have been my first. I think it's my first depiction of Stan Lee for me. Period. I think it's the first time I really became. I put a face to the name essentially. I mean, before that, I might have just I might have heard the voice on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but I mean, you guys, the narrator. But I mean, this is the first time I really kind of got a picture and kind of got that. Okay, there's a behind the name in the comics. There exists a guy like Stan Lee. This is him. Yeah, again, I really kind of consider like you focus more on Spider-Man the character before like you create him. It was early on, it's a long time ago. So this might have been my first Stan Lee cameo ever. What I'm saying there. So this has always been a biggie for me. This has always kind of informed like a lot of the fondness I have for Stan Lee. It's really important. Again, I would have put it number 5, but then I realized I got so much love for this, and it's kind of the, in many ways, it's the ultimate cameo between Stan Lee and Spider-Man. It very much is. It's in many respects. See, it's the perfect final note to hit with the Spider-Man arc. In the Spider-Man the animated series, had an arc of kind of getting over kind of the Parker luck of it all, kind of getting over the loss of Uncle Ben, all the curveballs that life threw him, and basically the idea is by season 5, by the very end, the big lesson that he learned was, and again, I'm not saying the arc was like carried off flawlessly, but I'm saying by the end, the big gist of what they carry out wonderfully in the last 2 parts, like a big epic kind of 2-part, like episodes 12 and 13. And it was that Spider-Man, he's come around and says, what, as he says the stand here, says, what, I like my life. Basically it's like Spider-Man, he's kind of accepted the responsibility by the end. And what's so wonderful is that thanks to Madam Web, who was played by Joan Lee, so it was so nice that we got Joan Lee and Stan Lee within the same episode. Again, this and Apocalypse is like the only time we've ever done that. We have Joan Lee as Madam Web transporting Spider-Man, and the actor Christopher Daniel Barnes in a Spider-Man costume says, "Oh, you got to meet the guy who created you." And he's walking
so
around
meta, Dragon. It's so meta.
It's so meta, and again, this blew my mind as a kid. And this was my introduction. Like, oh my god, like Spider-Man meeting his creator, how prolific. And again, so it's the idea of a fictional character educating his creator. And I mean, there's a lot of novelty and nostalgia of how cool this was for me. Again, it's that first cameo beyond Stan Lee just being a narrator and name on the book. And again, also, and again, as I said before, it pairs him with Joan Lee. And I mentioned this when we remarked on the passing of Joan Lee, because this moment always stood out to me and always spoke to the love that these two shared. And it was a moment that was always here and always, again, this was my introduction to Joan Lee as well. I didn't know it was Joan Lee. I just thought it was like Madam Web. Uh-huh. But again, years later, it's like, oh my god, and finding out that and finding out how pivotal role she had and everything. It's that it always boils down, aside from just Stan saying, oh gosh, geez, I didn't. I guess I've been right and you're wrong all these years. As well, we all have to grow up sometimes, Stan, which is just a wonderful kind of final note to Spider-Man educate. Like I've kind of surpassed what you. It's very much kind of Stan Lee as Spider-Man's father in a respect. It's really kind of cool and trippy that way. But anyway, the moment that the last line that Stan has with Spider-Man is, "Who is that exotic woman?" Looking at Madam Web getting ready to take Spider-Man home, take Spider-Man to like another adventure. And he says, "Farewell, Spider-Man." He says, "Take care, Stan. Farewell, Spider-Man." Again, the name of the episode. And Joan Lee as Madam Web says the. Sorry, I'm getting a little nostalgic here. Spider-Man says, "Man, that's Stan Lee. He's one heck of a guy. He's such a nice guy. That's Stan Lee." and as he says that, to marks at the Madam Web has the line that makes me all misty over Joan Lee. He says, "I think he is truly special."
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, that's so true. And she always said, she had that great quote once in an interview where she said, "He's so much more than Spider-Man, but at the same time, he's the wonderment of seeing Spider-Man for the first time. It's less him being linked to Spider-Man as he is. He will always be linked to Spider-Man along with all these other Marvel characters, but at the same time, he is that, he is that that sense of wonder. He's that first experience reading a comic or seeing a Marvel superhero. That's what Stan Lee embodies.
Hmm.
Those are big for me. So, yeah, probably the most nostalgic cameo of all for me.
Nice, nice. Okay, getting into the big ones, Dragon. Getting into the top three. Oh my god. No matter how you slice it, folks, these three are just, they are the top pantheon of Stan Lee cameos for me. They're the untouchables.
The Holy Trinity of
It
Stan
was it
Lee.
was hard to rank these three, Dragon. One of them is a very recent one that I just discovered, but I just really attached to. It's not number three. Will it be number one? We'll have to see. But number three is Ball Rats.
Now, Tiki, I agree with you ranking this so high. By the way, rewatching the whole thing in its entirety, because I remember this, but my God, this is probably the best act. This is the best acted Stan Lee cameo.
Okay, here's the thing, Dragon. The difference between this being number three and number two is it's no fault of Stan Lee whatsoever. It's just the fact that I really feel like within the context of Mallrats, Stan Lee is more of a supporting character than he is a cameo.
You're right, but at the same time, it's only 4 minutes.
It's 4 minutes, but it's I mean, that's a lot longer than a lot of these cameos we've been talking about,
True.
It's substantially longer than a lot of the cameos we've been talking about. And
Give you that.
in that 4 minutes, it's just a really pivotal part of the movie that sets everything in focus. It's really kind of the thesis statement for the whole film. And so that's both a blessing and a curse because it's hard for me to call this a cameo when it's so important to the movie. But at the same time, I mean, everything about this is so heartfelt and genuine, and I love the way that Stan Lee approaches the situation. My favorite moment is Brody, Jason Lee, and Stan Lee. They're talking for about a minute before it clicks in Brody's mind who he's talking to, and then he just has this glorious Jason Lee, holy shit, it's you,
Oh, hi, Stan Lee.
Stan Lee, yeah, Stan Lee.
He's
get this all the time.
Oh my God,
I love that. I love the timing on that.
He's so nonchalant. He mentions all the women that he's had in his life too. He just plays himself up.
Here's the thing. Here's what I love about all the women he's had in his life. All right, we know that Stan Lee's been married to Joan for quite a while. We know that he's not a player. We know that he's not playing around and sleeping with a bunch of different girls and stuff. We know that's not really who Stan Lee is. But the genius thing about it is that the movie actually addresses that.
Exactly.
It's not out of character. It's literally Stan Lee pulling from one of his stories and inventing this caricature of himself out of that. So it's really fun on so many levels. I believe it's one of the few times we see Stan Lee with a full beard. So props on, the unique look too.
Sure. And again, Tiga, just the performance. Honestly, there's a fun little story. The performance was so convincing. Stanley loves the joke about this. He loved the joke about this, that his wife was, because he sold it so well, as per the point of the story he was telling. He sold it that there was the one that got away.
Uh-huh.
And Joan was so kept riding him about who was this one that got away, and Stanley was so he was so amused like a schoolboy that, again, Stanley, he always had those aspirations. And the wonderful thing about all these cameos, but we probably should have mentioned at the very top, but silly us. Stanley, he always wanted, before he was a writer, he wanted to be an actor like Errol Flynn. He wanted to be an actor, and years later, after creating all these characters, being such a prolific, awesome writer, he was able to perform as an actor and for all these cameos. And I would still say by an actor standards, again, I'm with you in that. Yeah, it's in this weird nexus between the cameo, because again, it's played and acknowledged like a cameo, but it
themes too. That's the thing.
That's the thing. And anyway, by the same token, I would say this is the finest performance. And I love that Kevin Smith has the glory of getting the finest Stan Lee performance out of, again, the finest, the best directed Stan Lee.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay, Well, at the very again, the finest he got the finest performance out of Stanley, out of any of the cameos, out of anything. It's the best Stanley performance because again, he gets a full scene, and my God, he had the acting chops, and enough as Stanley loves the kind of is so bemused by like, hey, I convinced my wife that there was a one that got away because I was good in the role. And again, he's so wonderful in Mallrats. My God, I can't get enough of this scene. It's definitely
And
it's the
Dragon,
best
I gotta
acting.
say, like, Mallrats holds up so well for me. I was watching clips of it. I really need to rewatch the whole movie.
Honestly, out of all of Kevin Smith's movies, I mean, the top three for me are probably, again, I don't know what the order is off the top of my head, but I know the top three, the big trinity of the Kevin Smith movies for me. It's Mallrats, Clerks 2, and Dogma. Those are the big three,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean, yeah, just, oh my God, this moment, again, I can't remark enough on the performance and how well the performance holds up because again it has to get our character to a plot place and what the heck is going to get this thick-headed, it's going to get Brody, and I love he's playing against Jason Lee, who again is well known for The Incredibles, so Jason Lee known for another comic book
Yes,
role,
yes.
known for a superhero role. Again, it's so wonderful to seeing kind of that contrast there and just seeing just like, how are we gonna get this meathead into getting on the right path to go after the girl for the big third act? Well, we need someone from the comic book world to really shake him. We need like a huge icon. Kevin, do you know any huge icons from the comic world? Well, now that you mention it, Stanley.
Yeah, really good. Okay, getting into it, Dragon. Let's jump right into your top three.
Ah,
Start,
yes,
starting with,
it's a sequel.
and I imagine, Dragon, I imagine all three of these, much like me, were hard to rank because now kind of seeing how your top three is shaping out, all three of them are just really, really, on the money.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
got three really excellent choices in my top three. I'll boast that. I'm in love with my top five, but my top three they're perfect.
All right. Number three.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh yeah.
So Stan, okay, now I'll say this. Objectively, this is probably the best. Objectively, this is the best cameo. Because, it confirms that fan theory, kind of retroactive, makes all the other cameos even better. It's Stan Lee as the Watcher's informant. So he's not a Watcher, but he works for the Watchers, which explains that essentially says definitely all the MCU, and assumedly, again, especially now after after like the Marvel, after like kind of the Marvel Fox things kind of being worked through, it suggests that all cameos of Stan Lee in a superhero film have been the same guy,
Hmm.
which is pretty awesome. And again, very much a good build for Infinity War. So again, it's an awesome. Again, it was a fan theory for many years that he was a Watcher, and we kind of confirmed that to a point finally in Guardians Volume 2. James Gunn, he really tapped into that. Again, James Gunn, he knows how to tap into the fans' wants and it doesn't give them too much, but he gives them just enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, it explains all the cameos. So retroactively, it kind of strengthens the whole. It rise like the one ship rises all tides. He looks. I love the spacesuit. The spacesuit's really. It's a fun look. Again, not as cool as the Ragnarok look, but it still was really cool.
Just all the Marvel space movies have Stan Lee looking really cool.
Yeah,
The
and
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 cameo is really quick, but I still love his design in that one.
so again, overall, I feel it's the smartest and most important cameo out of all of them. So again, objectively, probably the best. Whether it's a favor or not, again, it's up there, but it's not it's super. It's like, oh my God, yes, that's amazing. And what I love beyond just the cool factor of like, oh my God, fan theory confirmed. As great as that all is, and again, I think that's what kind of ascends it to a large degree. What I really love about it at its core, Teak, and this is the thing that kind of makes me a little misty-eyed about it is I love that out of all the cameos, what makes this and the reason it's not just like, hey, it's the same guy. He's the same guy, but for a reason. He's the same guy, and we make Stan the same guy because it allows us. It gives us Stan Lee as we know him at its core. It's Stan Lee as a storyteller. It's Stan Lee as a storyteller, regaling the watchers, the guys who know everything of what's going on in the Marvel universe. One of their reasons they have Stan Lee in the world, telling them these stories, telling them what's going on in the MCU through his like kind of his the cameo perspective. And again, like from Civil War, he's mentioning, oh, and that was when I was a FedEx guy, and I love that when we were, again, this is also one of the rare times we call back a cameo too. It's a very rare one in the MCU. We call back a cameo where we at the end credits where. And Tiki and I, we got a real kick out of this in the delivery, and especially you, Tiki. But my God, me every time I rewatch, I just love Stan Lee's delivery on the post credit line where he says, "Oh gee," as the watchers are walking away. Oh gee.
Oh gee. Oh no.
Oh gee. And again, this is the line, Tiki. If there was ever a line that again, we need this embroider on something, Stanley. Again, God, again, fingers crossed, knock on wood. I mean, again, knock on wood, by all means. If this is what we need on Stanley's tombstone, I really do. It's like, oh gee, I got so many more stories to tell.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what Stanley is, again, as he is in terms of what he feels. Again, he's he's the first. He's the whimsy you have when you're reading your first comic book. At the same time, he is at his core. He's the storyteller he's the storyteller in all of comics. He's the guy who was aching to tell you more wonderful stories, and not just stories that he's, again, we all know, pretty much we know all the Stan Lee stories that he's told in interviews, and you hear him over and over again because you like him, because he tells them so well, and he tells them with such vigor, like he knows these stories, like an actor memorizing his lines, but in the best way. And again, just at the end of the day, what we're going to have with Stan Lee when, either we leave this earth or he leaves this earth, man, God hoping it's us before him. You're going to hear like, oh, gee, I got so many more stories to tell. It's a guy who's aching to tell more stories about the Marvel universe. That's who Stan Lee is at his core. And that's why this is probably objectively the best cameo, objectively.
All right, well said. Well said. Okay, then, getting into the top two. Oh, man. Dragon, I think you can probably predict what my number one is going to be, but my number two is... no, folks, you're not seeing a clip of the hit FX series Archer. This is a Black Panther motion comic. Dragon, do you want to put some context to this?
All right, to put it simple, folks. Years ago, there was this motion comic, which I believe you can find on the Marvel YouTube channel now, because after the movie came out, they put on the YouTube channel. I think you might be able to find it on Amazon. I'm not sure, but the point is, there's this my main introduction to Black Panther in comics was the story by John Romita Jr. He didn't write; he did the art. I keep blanking on the writer's name, but it's this great story. It's the introduction of Black Panther retold. It's called Who is Black Panther? That's what the first 6 issues of this arc is, of the Black Panther comic. Mm-hmm. And what they did, because that was a really cool run. That was a really big kind of introduction. Like if you ever need like an introduction to Black Panther, especially for anyone going into the movie, I'd highly recommend this. You read. This book gives you kind of like a Wakanda 101 to a degree, and what they did is they did a motion comic of this. I'm pretty sure BET did this. I'm pretty sure, and we have Damon Hansu who played. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Not Korg, but
the Who guy.
Yeah, the Star Lord. Who?
What?
That guy. I gotta look up that guy's name after this, but he anyway, that guy, Damon Hansu, he plays Black Panther, and anyway, so they did this. They adapted those first 6 issues as a motion comic, and it was very well loved. And people they labeled it a Black Panther animated series. It's a motion comic, not an animated series, but it was cool nonetheless. Anyway, so we have an excellent voice cast, and who are one of the voices in this scene, Tiki?
Mr. Stan Lee is playing the, is he a general or what, Dragon? What's his official role?
I'm pretty sure he's a general.
Okay. So, Dragon, one reason and one reason only why this is my runner-up. This is the closest we're ever going to get to see Stan Lee playing J. Jonah Jameson. And that just warmed my heart. I just love Stan Lee just being able to slip into a character and just go all out with it, because he's basically, what he's doing is he's playing a racist, like, very much totalitarian general guy who's all about kind of invading Wakanda. And I like that idea. I like that idea that Stan Lee is kind of playing a bad guy. You know, he's not evil, but at the same time, he's a very flawed character. He's
He's
very
bigoted.
angry. He's very temperamental.
He's very bigoted. Very much kind of a more offensive version of what he of what he's of how he would play J. Jonah Jameson.
So that's what I'm saying. I love the fact that we get kind of a gateway into Stan Lee playing a more cantankerous character that's actually sort of a threat to the main protagonist in the story. And I don't know, there's just something really interesting about the idea that Stan Lee is playing against type here. He's playing a jerk. He's playing someone that we're rooting against. And for that reason, Dragon, I think that while Mallrats is certainly his best on-screen performance, this is probably his best vocal performance by a county mile if we're going to just count all the voice work he's done, because I just, like I said, you really get into the role. You kind of wish this general was in more of the story just because Stan's kind of acting his heart out here. And I just love it. And like I said, the whole idea of Stan Lee playing J. Jonah Jameson is one of those big what if things for me. And this kind of gives it and, kind of takes that to light a little bit.
Yeah, because just for the record, oh, by the way, it's Korath. I'm embarrassed that I forgot his name because I love that. I love that character. I love what we're about to do with Korath. By the way, in the movies, Damon Hansu. That guy. Korath, he's going to be in Captain Marvel. They're going to. It's kind of it's a prequel, so it's going to be him and Ronan in the Captain Marvel movie. So I'm very excited to see that. By the way, so I feel embarrassed that I forgot Korath. Anyway, but yes, Tiki. The cool thing about J. Jonah Jameson is again that's a role that Stanley's always modeled himself after. He always modeled J. Jonah Jameson after how he thought people perceived him as like a tyrant editor at Marvel Comics. And again, he basically, of course, extrapolated by kind of like at times he was very anti-hippie, very anti-youth, and very much like bigoted in other ways. In this case, we directed we took it as a character who's more closed-minded in government here, just basically comparing Wakanda to the place of savages. Like no, he's very much kind of like an anti. Trying to think of the word here because he's very much he's definitely an anti-Captain America. That's not really a good kind of comparison, a good phrase, but he's very much like a closed-minded government official, just like, hey, those savages, they have, look at all the high-tech weapons they have. It's just they're taking us out with spears. That's embarrassing. It's and of course everyone's giving him a look of like we don't. Stanley's playing a bad guy, yet he's playing a dumb guy, not a bigoted guy. He's not evil, but you're right. He's not evil. He's just It's very closed-minded. I love we don't give him an inch with that. I love we just give him like a death glare in this scene by everyone else. Everett Ross and Angela, I believe, I forget if it's Angela Bassett Afraid Woodard. She plays the boss in the scene. I forget the name. It's been a while, folks, but she plays the boss in the room here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you're right. It's a very unconventional cameo, to say the least. Very unconventional, really.
I would say it might be the most obscure cameo that we have on the list.
I don't know. Part of me wants to say the Mission Breakout because it's a ride, but no. Well, wait. Actually, wait. No.
Mission Breakout is necessarily obscure because everyone who goes into that pretty much catches it.
You're right about that. However, now I'm thinking about Muppet Babies, most obscure.
Muppet Babies is probably the most obscure.
I didn't even know about Muppet. I've never seen Muppet Babies. Right? So I've never seen the cameo, and I've never seen the cameo of Muppet Babies.
To be fair, there's also a Phineas and Ferb Stan Lee cameo that
I know about that one. I
was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Anyways, Dragon. Okay, so moving on. Your number 2 is.
My number 2 is another Avengers. As another Avengers cameo. It is Avengers: Age of Ultron. So this for me, and again, I still stand by Guardians Volume 2 is probably objectively the best, but for me, though, my favorite of the MCU cameos is Age of Ultron. Keyword of the MCU cameos, Age of Ultron is my favorite. Because this works on a variety of levels, and again, it speaks to Stan, it speaks to his crew, it speaks to him. It's a fun performance, it's a funny gag. This one hits all the right notes. This is everything I want in a cameo. It always felt like it felt like such a well executed cameo to me. In that, so let's see. I'm trying to break it down here. So essentially, Stan Lee plays one of Captain America's war veteran buddies from World War II. One, that's awesome. I love that. Secondly, it's Stan Lee as a World War II veteran, which he is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. And again, a reflection of real life. It's a clever way of working him in. It's that beautiful. It reflects his own wartime service. Where he wasn't in the thick of it like Jack Kirby necessarily, but again, he did help. He helped with the propaganda and like kind of the VD not me ad, like all that. He helped out a great deal. He worked with a lot of the other greats like Dr. Seuss. He was there with Ted Geisel. And what's really neat and what I really love, I think the cute, kind of beautiful, sweet idea of it all is that this is such a clever way. Again, it's a better version of what I was kind of saying earlier with the Winter Soldier here. It was such a better way. It's like the perfect way of doing this with Stan Lee. That it's a clever way of working Stan, who again, in this cameo, essentially he served. It's implied that he served with either within Cap's company, or at least he was there overseas with Cap. Whether he worked under him directly or not, because Cap worked specifically with the Howling Commandos. I don't know if he was part of the 107th First or not. But he's the idea that he served with or under Cap, like in real life. Again, with the whole creation of Captain America, it's being like the kid, the gopher, the intern who eventually he wrote a Captain America story and then he was in the business. And again, it's a great gag in reference to just Captain America can't get drunk because of the cellular regeneration of the super soldier serum, and Thor has like an Asgardian ale that has been like chilled for like 1,000 years. It's been like fermented for like 1,000 years. So he gives this to Cap in an attempt to get his buddy Cap drunk. It's like, okay, this will probably do the trick. And while he's about to do that, they're asking, hey, what do you have in there? Oh, this is not meant for mortal men. And Stan Lee, and this wins me on every level here. One, it's Stan Lee as a war veteran, which he is. Stan Lee in relation to Captain America, and Stan Lee with some really winning lines saying, "So was Omaha Beach, Blondie. Stop trying to scare us. Give it here." So again, Stan's playing like a tough war hero that and you can see in the scene. This is what cracks me up about in the rewatch. If you look, you can see Captain America. You see Steve Rogers. He's kind of impressed, like intimidated by the guy for a moment. Because he goes like, "Whoa, okay, give me the thing." It's like whether it's like, "Oh boy, let's see what's going to happen," but at the same time, it's like he respects the guy. Like, wow, this is like again, this is the generation I served with. I respect the heck out of it. Gives him
Stan Lee like resents Captain America because he got to because he's as old as Captain America, but Captain America is like still this chipper, handsome stud of a guy.
Yeah, again, it might be like he's just trying to I'm going to show up this young kid here, this whippersnapper, as old as me, but hey, I'm going to show him up. So, and I love that like Thor, like even toast. It's like a moment. Again, there's so many things. I'm just finding this in the moment. Actually, he toasts. They clink glasses. He clinks Stan's glass. Then we cut to the big payoff gag, and I believe it's the only time, if not the first time, we've done this in the MCU. We get an Excelsior as he's drunkenly being led away by his other war veteran buddies. Excelsior.
Excelsior.
Which, honestly, I think in all the cameos, I think it might be. Well, okay, maybe not in all the cameos of all time, but definitely in all the film cameos. The first time we got Excelsior.
I think so. I think you're right.
So again, I love that. Tiki, this is definitely I would rewatch this cameo just for fun. I love this. It's absolutely my favorite MCU cameo. It's a lot of fun. It's great. It's Whedon, like he wrote his heart out in this scene. I really think this is the best written cameo. I'm gonna again like it's the cameo Oscars here, folks. This is the best written cameo.
All right.
All right.
Okay, my number one, Dragon. You probably saw this coming, and I imagine you saw this coming. And I've said on record before that this is my favorite Stan Lee cameo, but just for the record, for everyone else, you can wear them forwards, you can wear them backwards, you can wear them sideways. Oh, Dragon. So let me just explain to you the experience I had with this cameo.
Big Hero 6.
Because this is the most special experience I've ever had with a Stan Lee cameo, and it's why it's number one for me personally. So Dragon, when I was watching Big Hero 6, first of all, famously, I saw Big Hero 6 on an epic movie marathon day where I bought a ticket to Birdman and then I movie hopped from Birdman to Big Hero 6 to Interstellar. So just, Big Hero 6 is in the middle of those two like head trips of movies. And anyways, so when I was watching Big Hero 6, of course I noticed the Stan Lee portrait in the background when we're at Fred's house. And I'm like, oh, there it is. There's the Stan Lee cameo. That's a nice way to do it without actually having him there. You know what I mean? Like, that's a nice nod. And Dragon, I was, watching the credits. Disney likes to put stuff after the credits anyways. Like, honestly, they've been doing that since before the MCU. Like, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies always had post-credit stingers, for example.
Yeah, and sure, and like recent examples, you got Wreck-It Ralph doesn't have a post-credit scene, but it has like a little video game nod at the end. You have Frozen definitely has a post-credit scene. Yeah, you got a few.
Right, right. So I was just with this being a Marvel movie and a Disney movie, I'm like, okay, I'm staying through the credits, and naturally. And Dragon, everyone else but one other person stayed till the end. Like this not being what they were used to, it's not an MCU film, it's an animated film. Nobody else besides this one other guy thought to stay till the end. And Dragon, just the camaraderie that me and this one other guy felt when Stan Lee walks out in that post-credit scene and he starts just waxing poetic about superhero underwear. Dragon, me and this other random guy just felt like we were best bros in that moment. All
and
right,
secretly, I was this guy, folks. He doesn't know it, but I was this guy.
Like no. We felt like we were like best friends in that movie. Like, yeah, we're the smart ones. All right. Like we saw this awesome Stan Lee thing that no one else in our theater saw.
That's how Tiki and I met. No, I'm kidding.
Oh god. Oh, but seriously, just speaking to the cameo itself, I love the fact that it subverts expectations where it's not just the painting. It's we actually see him. And of course, Dragon, Stan Lee waxing poetic about superhero underwear. I mean, do I need to say more? It's just like, just the absurdity of it, just the way he delivers the lines. You're like, you can wear them forwards, you can wear them backwards.
I mean, honestly, the thing you gotta hit with it, Tiki, is this is the first time we've ever seen Stan Lee in computer animation.
Yes, that's a big thing for sure.
And what I love, Tiki, is that not only in the computer animation, I don't know what it is. I think it's just honestly, I think it's just kind of Stan Lee and the way his face is shaped. I think it's that because the iconic shape of Stan Lee's head that we've seen this face all over in cameos, in animation. We know, and again, the people put on. I have like a few glasses with Stan Lee embroidered on it. Like some collectible glasses, like shot glasses and stuff. Stan Lee on it. So this face again, he's branded himself in a regard, in the best of ways. He's branded himself, and franchise, and in doing that, Stan Lee, when he basically reveals the underwear, and he reveals the the superhero briefs, and he gives a speech. The minute he starts again, one you're just like all of like, oh my god, it's Stan Lee, and we're seeing him, and again that's right. And you hear Stan speaking, and again CG animated, and the way it looks like it's the best way of kind of animating 3D look like 2D, because the expressions on Stan's face when he gives like that smile, it looks like when he says because he says it with a smile. It's like the old smiling Stan Lee. It's like he looks like smiling Stan Lee when he begins to go into this grand speech about I wear them forwards, I wear them backwards. It's like you could take a freeze frame of him like with that smile. It's like it's like yes, that's smiling Stan Lee. That's the magic of Stan Lee. It's just like it's nothing but love for even the most ridiculous or sci-fi or out of this world type stuff. It's like yes,
exactly.
And we also gave him a role of like he's the rich father to one of our main characters.
Yeah. So he serves an important story function within the movie too. That's a good point.
And I mean, according to the billing, I mean, he's slated to come back for Big Hero 6 in the animated series. I don't know if it's gonna be like continuing where this left off, or just like, hey, there he is again.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. But at any rate, that is my favorite Stan Lee cameo because it just hits all the right buttons. It was definitely the most memorable experience with a Stan Lee cameo that I've ever had. Just the comedy is really on point. Like you said, Dragon, it was a milestone to see him in computer animation. Just all the cards lined up for this to be probably a pretty easy pick for number one for me.
While this list was hard to form, Teak, I actually echo what you did because mine should not be a surprise to many people. Because again, I never had a doubt in my mind what my number one was going to be because I know this in my DNA of my favorite Stan Lee cameos. It's never changed. It's always been this. Well, I mean, again, since it happened, because before it was Daredevil, but but my all time favorite Stan Lee cameo. Again, if we're doing all time, because again, MCU was Age of Ultron, we're doing all time easily. Spider-Man 3. I got Spider-Man 3. He plays the man in Times Square. And I know I love the Spider-Man the animated series, but that kind of borders on the Mallrats thing a little because it's kind of it's a
Yeah,
scene.
it does, right.
That's the thing. It kind of borders on the Mallrats thing, and at the same time, it's a final note though, so it's kind of like it's saved for the very last minute, so it's kind of a cameo. The point is, so that was a big nostalgia pull. It's a huge nostalgia pull. And this, so again, while again the huge nostalgia pull says something prolific about his relationship with Spider-Man, this is kind of that's the creator. That's kind of the that's kind of the old. It's I don't know what the trope of it's called in writing. That's kind of the creator kind of. That's the creation surpassing the creator and kind of having that kind of moment with God type moment. That's kind of what Spider-Man the animated series is. This is just kind of a. I'm sorry. This one really gets me. This will always be my favorite cameo, my all-time favorite cameo because it's again kind of like Spider-Man the animated series. It's a cameo reflecting on Spider-Man's growth, but in a way, it's kind of like a pat on the back from the creator that you never knew. It's kind of like it's kind of getting essentially it's like getting the thumbs up from Poppy, but never knowing about it.
Oh God!
And this is definitely I would say. So again, if Apocalypse is the best shot cameo, this still feels like again it might say it's the same thing, but I don't know. I feel there's something magical and cinematic about this. It feels like it's the most. It feels like it's one of the best directed of the cameos. I think Sam Raimi he knocked it out of the ballpark with this cameo. He shot I still feel he shot the perfect Stan Lee cameo with this.
Mm.
In that, and again, we've had a lot of great contenders here, folks. By all means, if anyone has a different opinion, I get it. There are a lot of good ones to pick from. It's Spider-Man getting praise from the creator himself, and it's just this beautiful line, this beautiful delivery from Stan Lee. And again, it's not a Mall. Again, Mallrats is a full scene. So this is like if you had like a line from Stan Lee.
Like a couple monologues.
So that's what I'm saying. So again, folks, I still stand by Mallrats is the best Stan Lee performance. However, this again, if you had the parrot, it's like the best line to give Stan Lee. You had to give Stan Lee one line though. It's I guess one man can make a difference. And again, as Peter Parker is maybe about to say something, enough said, and he walks off, disappears into the crowd of New Yorkers, and it takes place in Times Square. It's this unique moment in the trilogy. It's a unique moment in the original Raimi trilogy where Spider-Man, he's kind of gone from being kind of the vigilante who's kind of the masked hero that is either looked at as a menace by the Daily Bugle or like kind of people. Again, we go to all sorts of people who have different opinions about Spider-Man in that first movie. And by the end, by Spider-Man 3, the beginning of Spider-Man 3, things for a change are going well for Peter Parker. He's kind of gotten past the Parker look. So again, kind of like the animated series, it's kind of Spider-Man has some growth here. He's kind of things are going well for Spider-Man for a change. And just a stranger remarking on that change in status quo, remarking to Spider-Man unknowingly. He has no idea that he's Spider-Man, and just kind of like remarking to like a random guy on the street. Such a nice. It's a moment of where Avengers is kind of New York cynicism of like, oh, it's a New York like God, you'll love it, but those people, it's a nut. Everyone's kind of a nut in their own way. In this case, like there's it's the hope of New York. It's kind of like that camaraderie, it's that love there where. Unknowingly he remarks to Spider-Man how wonderful this is, that, hey, and in the moral simplicity of it all, that, hey, one person really can make a difference. I guess, either we were wrong about him or, this one guy, he can make a difference. And then he disappears in the crowd like the sentiment, he disappears into the crowd just with that sentiment kind of like lingering in the air. And again, it feels kind of otherworldly in a way. It's a cameo with dramatic heft and a love to it that it feels almost kind of whimsical, like a Willy Wonka scene. Just like it's kind of like the ending of. It's kind of like the feeling you get at the end of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. When you have that. Now, Charlie, remember what happened to the boy who got everything he ever wanted? He lived happily ever after. It's kind of like it's a magical moment. It's like a magical Marvel moment like that. It's really hard to compete with. So, my heart of hearts, no matter what Marvel does, it's like even in Infinity War, do something amazing with. They give like the most dramatic, awesome Stan Lee cameo as a watcher or something, or like as like they just have him like comment on like a dramatic. I hope they win, like something like that. I don't know. It still won't compete with Stan Lee having a scene with again his most identifiable Marvel character, just like saying good work again without saying good work. It's kind of like the Walt Disney, that'll do. It's kind of like getting the big thumbs up from the boss, just like hey, you're doing a good job. You're a hero. You're everything I wanted you to be, without saying all that, just inferring that. If you know who that is, you're going to absolutely get all of that. If not, it's like wow, it's a nice sentiment from an old stranger, just kind of he disappears, and that's like a confidence booster for Peter Parker. How nice is that? So it works on every level. I just think I think it's the perfect cameo. I think it's everything you want in a cameo. It's brief, it's to the point, it's memorable. And my God, it's memorable. It's a best compared to the other two cameos, which are fun. They're fine. Again, as Tiki said earlier, like oh there he is cameos. This is like the one that meant something. It's the out of all the cameos that Stan tried to get in those Spider-Man movies, this is the one he got in that actually it lingers, and it's a moment, not just like a Where's Waldo of Stan Lee.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So it's perfect, and it'll always be my favorite my favorite cameo. It's like how Toy Story is my favorite Pixar movie. Whether
Dragon,
some
I gotta say, when I first saw Spider-Man 3, I was a little bit cynical on this just because it was a little on the nose. It was kind of like, oh, there he is, and he's giving the thumbs up to Spider-Man. It's very much kind of breaking the fourth wall in that way. But I think the legacy of this cameo has held up over the years, and I think I've softened on that quite a bit. It's not my favorite cameo. Honestly, this is kind of why we're making these lists, folks, is that because our lists for the most part are radically different from each other. Because I wouldn't have even put this in the top 10 of my list. But Dragon, your reasoning is definitely on point. It's very much just so sentimental and so much ingrained in the culture of what we think Stan Lee is, what we think Spider-Man is, how we feel Stan Lee interacts with the characters he's created. It's all those things.
yeah, it's like the only pat in the back Spider-Man's ever going to get that he needs, but he doesn't need to know that he needs.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right, so that is it, folks. Our next installment in the road to Thanos, if you will, is we're not going to do a whole sub series out of that. Don't worry, but we are going to be, speaking of Spider-Man, we're going to be taking a re-examination at Spider-Man: Homecoming. Our first spoiler cast notoriously didn't go very well.
No, it did not.
So we're going to be bringing Pie on My Cake on board, and he's going to be joining Dragon and I for a full-fledged commentary track on Homecoming. Now,
Interestingly
Dragon, I've
enough,
still yet to rewatch Homecoming after the two times I saw it in theaters. So looking forward to that tomorrow, but a little bit on the nervous side that I'm still going to be coming off like the contrarian asshole. We'll see how it goes. I famously kind of find Homecoming a little bit overhyped from the two times I have seen it.
the interesting thing is that Homecoming, along with another Marvel movie, there have only been two Marvel movies to never have commentary of the MCU Marvel films. So, I mean, two that have never had commentary. Homecoming, surprisingly, is one of them.
Yep.
So yeah,
All right. So thank you so much for joining us, folks, and join us next time when we round up and rank again.
Excelsior!
Oh, gee. Oh no, guys. Oh, gee.